The fluorescent lights of St. Catherine's emergency department hummed with their usual mechanical indifference as I scrubbed dried blood from beneath my fingernails. Third gunshot wound of the night. The water ran pink, then clear, but the metallic smell lingered in my nostrils no matter how much soap I used. My reflection in the mirror above the scrub sink showed what I already felt. Exhaustion carved into the shadows under my eyes, my auburn hair escaping its ponytail in sweat-dampened tendrils, my pale skin nearly translucent under the harsh lighting. 6 years as a trauma nurse in Manhattan's busiest ER had taught me to compartmentalize. Lock away the horror in neat mental boxes, smile at the next patient, move forward. But lately, those boxes were overflowing. Or maybe it was just Derek making everything feel heavier, harder, more suffocating. My phone buzzed in my scrub pocket. I didn't need to check it to know who it was. The 5th text in the last hour. I dried my hands with mechanical precision, the rough paper towels scratching against skin already raw from constant washing. The wall clock read 11:47 p.m. My shift had ended 17 minutes ago. "Amelia, you heading out?" Dr. Ramirez appeared beside me, his kind eyes crinkling with concern. He'd noticed the texts, the way I'd started flinching when my phone vibrated. "Want me to walk you to your car?" "I'm fine, Marcus. Really." The lie tasted familiar on my tongue. "Taking the subway tonight anyway." He nodded slowly, unconvinced but respectful of boundaries. We all had our private hells in this profession. Mine just happened to text obsessively and wait outside my apartment building at odd hours. "Be safe out there." The December cold hit me like a physical force as I pushed through the hospital's main entrance. Snow had started falling while I'd been inside, light flakes that caught in my hair and melted against the warmth of my skin. I pulled my thin jacket tighter, wishing I'd remembered my heavier coat this morning. But Derek had been standing by my door again, and I'd grabbed the first thing I could reach in my rush to leave. My phone buzzed again. This time I looked. "Derek, where are you? I know your shift ended. Derek, we need to talk about last night. Derek, Amelia, don't ignore me. Derek, this is ridiculous. I said I was sorry." "Derek, answer your fucking phone." My fingers trembled as I typed back, hating myself for responding, but knowing silence would only escalate things. "Me. I'm tired. Going home. We'll talk tomorrow." The 3 dots appeared immediately. He was watching, waiting, always watching. "Derek, I'm outside your building. I'll wait." A cold that had nothing to do with December settled in my stomach. I stopped walking, suddenly aware of every shadow on the street, every stranger's face passing under the streetlights. The subway entrance was 3 blocks away. My apartment was another 20 minutes after that, and Derek would be there, pacing outside like he had been for the past week, ever since I'd told him I needed space. Space. Such an inadequate word for what I actually needed. Freedom. Safety. A life without constantly checking over my shoulder or calculating how to phrase things so they wouldn't trigger his rage. "Hey, Amelia." A familiar voice called from behind me. I turned to see Jennifer, one of the other night shift nurses, hurrying to catch up. Her dark skin glowed against the white of the falling snow, her smile warm despite the cold. "You look like you've seen a ghost. Everything okay?" "Yeah, just long night." I forced a smile, grateful for her presence even as guilt gnawed at me for the deception. Jennifer was a friend, a good one. But how could I explain that the man I'd been dating for 18 months had slowly transformed from charming and attentive to controlling and volatile? That I'd tried to leave 3 times now, and each time he'd shown up with flowers and tears and promises that made me doubt my own perception of reality? "Tell me about it." That GSW to the chest almost didn't make it. She fell into step beside me, her presence a small buffer against my anxiety. "You taking the subway? Want company?" "That'd be great, actually." We walked together, Jennifer chatting about a vacation she was planning to Puerto Rico, her words a pleasant distraction from the phone that kept buzzing in my pocket. I let her voice wash over me, nodding at appropriate moments, while my mind spun through scenarios. Maybe Derek would give up and leave. Maybe I could stay at Jennifer's tonight. Maybe I could finally work up the courage to file a restraining order, even though the thought of that confrontation made my chest tighten with dread. The subway entrance glowed ahead, a beacon of temporary escape. Jennifer was still talking, something about her sister's new baby, when a figure stepped out from the coffee shop we were passing. Amelia. I froze. Derek looked worse than usual, his blonde hair disheveled, his expensive suit rumpled, his blue eyes bloodshot and wild. He'd been drinking. I could smell the whiskey from 3 feet away. Derek. My voice came out steadier than I felt. What are you doing here? Looking for you. He smiled, but there was nothing warm in it. His gaze flickered to Jennifer, dismissive and cold. We need to talk, alone. Jennifer's hand found mine, squeezing gently. Amelia, we should catch our train. She can wait 5 minutes. Derek's tone shifted, harder now. This is between me and my girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend, I corrected, the word barely above a whisper, but landing like a stone between us. His expression darkened. In the glow of the streetlight, I could see the muscle in his jaw ticking, that telltale sign that his anger was building. Don't do this here, Amelia. Not in front of... He waved vaguely at Jennifer. Strangers. She's not a stranger, Derek. She's my friend. And I meant what I said last week. We're done. Done? He laughed, a harsh sound that made several passers-by glance our way. You don't get to decide that. Not after everything I've done for you. Jennifer tugged on my hand. Amelia, come on. Let's just go. I let her pull me toward the subway entrance, each step feeling like wading through concrete. Derek followed, his footsteps heavy behind us, his voice rising. I paid for your certification courses. I helped you move apartments. You'd still be in that shithole in Queens without me. People were staring now. A homeless man sitting against the building watched with knowing eyes, having seen this particular type of street theater played out countless times. A couple crossed to the other side of the street, unwilling to get involved. The indifference of the city wrapped around us like a familiar blanket. Nothing to see here, just another domestic dispute, none of our business. Amelia, stop walking away from me. Derek's hand closed around my upper arm, spinning me to face him. His grip was bruising, his face inches from mine. I could smell the whiskey stronger now, mixed with his cologne and something sour underneath. I love you. Why can't you see that? Everything I do is because I love you. Let go of me. My voice shook, fear and anger mixing in equal measure. Derek, you need to back off right now. Jennifer's voice was firm, her phone already in her hand. I'm calling the police. Stay out of this, bitch. He didn't even look at her, his eyes fixed on mine with an intensity that made my skin crawl. Amelia and I are working things out. Aren't we, baby? No. The word came out stronger than I expected. We're not. Let go of me, or Jennifer really will call the police. Something shifted in his expression, a flash of pure rage that he barely managed to contain. His grip loosened slightly, but he didn't release me. You think you can just throw away what we have? After everything? You're nothing without me, Amelia. Nobody. She said, let go. The new voice was quiet, but carried an unmistakable edge of authority. We all turned to see a man standing a few feet away, his posture relaxed, but radiating a kind of contained danger that made Derek's drunken aggression seem almost childish in comparison. He was tall, well-built, dressed in a dark wool coat that probably cost more than my monthly rent. His features were sharp, handsome in a way that seemed almost carved from stone, with dark eyes that assessed the situation with calculating precision. "This doesn't concern you," Derek snapped, finally releasing my arm. "Mind your own business." The stranger's gaze flickered to me, taking in Jennifer's protective stance and the red marks already forming on my arm where Derek had gripped me. Something hardened in his expression. "It concerns me when I see someone being assaulted on a public street." His accent held traces of Italian, soft around the edges but noticeable. "The lady asked you to leave her alone. I suggest you do that." Derek puffed up, trying to match the stranger's quiet authority with volume. "Who the fuck do you think you are? This is my girlfriend and we're having a private conversation." "Ex-girlfriend," I repeated, moving closer to Jennifer. My heart was hammering against my ribs, but something about this stranger's presence made me feel fractionally safer. And it's not a conversation when one person is being physically restrained. The stranger nodded slightly, as if I'd confirmed something for him. "You should go home," he said to Derek, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Sleep off whatever you've been drinking. The lady doesn't want to talk to you tonight." "Fuck you." Derek took a step toward him, swaying slightly. "You don't know anything about us, about what we have." "I know enough." The stranger didn't move, but something in his stillness suggested he could move very, very quickly if needed. "I know you're drunk. I know you put your hands on someone who didn't want to be touched. I know that if you don't walk away right now, this situation is going to escalate in ways you won't enjoy." For a long moment, Derek just stood there, weighing his options. I could see the calculations happening behind his bloodshot eyes, the alcohol urging him toward confrontation, whatever remained of his rational mind screaming at him to back down. The stranger looked like someone who could and would follow through on that veiled threat with devastating efficiency. Finally, Derek turned back to me, his expression cycling between rage and something almost pleading. "This isn't over, Amelia. We're not done. You'll see that. You'll realize you made a mistake. Go home, Derek." He pointed at me, his finger shaking. "You're making a huge fucking mistake. I've been patient with you. So patient. But you're pushing me, Amelia. You're really pushing me." Then he turned and stalked away, his gait unsteady, muttering curses under his breath. I watched him go, my body slowly unclenching, though I knew this reprieve was temporary. Derek didn't give up easily. He'd be back tomorrow with flowers and apologies, or he'd show up outside my building, or he'd find some other way to insert himself back into my life. "Are you all right?" The stranger's voice pulled me back to the present. He was closer now, close enough that I could see the concern in those dark eyes, despite the controlled neutrality of his expression. "I'm fine. Thank you for..." I gestured vaguely at Derek's retreating form. "You didn't have to get involved." Yes, I did. Simple. Absolute. As if there had been no other option but to intervene. "Is he a persistent problem?" Jennifer answered before I could. "He's been stalking her for weeks. Shows up at her work, her apartment, follows her around. Amelia's scared to file a restraining order because she thinks it'll make things worse." "Jennifer," I started, but she cut me off. "It's true, and someone needs to help you see how serious this is." She turned to the stranger. "Thank you for stepping in. I don't think he would have let go otherwise." He nodded slowly, those calculating eyes studying me in a way that made me feel uncomfortably exposed. "You should file that restraining order. Tonight, if possible. Men like him escalate." "I know," I said quietly. "I will. I just..." A screech of tires cut through the air. We all turned to see a car careening down the street, moving far too fast for the snowy conditions. And standing directly in its path, still muttering and stumbling, was Derek. "Derek!" The scream tore from my throat as I lurched forward, some instinct overriding common sense. What happened next occurred in a fraction of a second that somehow stretched into eternity. Derek looked up, his face blank with shock. The car showed no signs of slowing. I was running toward him, as if I could somehow reach him in time, pull him back from the path of that speeding vehicle. Strong hands closed around my waist, yanking me backward with such force that my feet left the ground. I heard the sickening thud of impact, saw Derek's body lifted and thrown aside like a rag doll, watched the car's taillights disappear around the corner without even slowing. The stranger held me against his chest, his arms locked around me like iron bands, preventing me from running to where Derek now lay motionless on the pavement. "Don't," he said quietly in my ear. "There's nothing you can do for him now, but I can keep you from joining him. Let me go." I struggled against his grip, but he was immovable. "I'm a nurse. I need to help him. Jennifer is already calling 911. You running into traffic won't help anyone." His voice was calm, steady, a point of stability in the chaos erupting around us. People were screaming, running toward Derek's crumpled form, pulling out phones to document the horror. Breathe. Just breathe. I sagged against him, the adrenaline draining away and leaving me hollow. Through the gathering crowd, I could see Derek's body, twisted at an unnatural angle, blood pooling beneath his head in the white snow. Jennifer was on her phone, speaking rapidly to emergency services, her face pale but focused. The stranger still held me, his grip gentler now, but no less secure. I could feel the steady beat of his heart against my back, smell the expensive cologne mixed with something darker, earthier. "That wasn't an accident," he said softly. "What?" I turned my head to look at him, confused and disoriented by shock. His dark eyes were fixed on the direction the car had disappeared, his expression hard. That car was accelerating, not braking, and it didn't stop after impact. He looked down at me, something shifting in his gaze. "That was deliberate. Someone just tried to kill your ex-boyfriend." The words didn't make sense. None of this made sense. "That's insane. Why would anyone—" "That's what I intend to find out." He released me slowly, making sure I was steady on my feet before stepping back. "What's your name?" Amelia Carter." "Adrian Santoro." He reached into his coat and pulled out a business card, pressing it into my hand. "When the police question you, and they will, tell them exactly what you saw. Don't embellish, don't speculate, just the facts." I stared at the card, my mind struggling to process his words through the fog of shock. The card was simple, elegant. Adrian Santoro, followed by a phone number. No business name, no title. Nothing to indicate what he did, or why he was giving me this. "The police will want to talk to you too," I managed. "I'll be here." He glanced at the growing crowd, the approaching wail of sirens. And Amelia? That man wasn't just drunk and jealous. He was scared, terrified actually. Someone like that does something desperate when they're that afraid. He paused, his gaze intense. "Which means you might be in more danger than you realize." Before I could ask what he meant, the ambulance arrived, followed quickly by police cars. The night exploded into strobing lights and urgent voices. Jennifer materialized at my side, pulling me away from Adrian Santoro and toward a paramedic who wanted to check me for injuries. As I was led away, I looked back once. Adrian stood at the edge of the scene, speaking quietly with a police officer, his posture relaxed, but his eyes constantly scanning the crowd, watching for threats, assessing danger, and I realized, with a chill that had nothing to do with the December cold, that this stranger who had saved me from running into traffic had recognized something in this situation that I had completely missed. Something that suggested Derek's accident was anything but random. The question was, what had Derek been involved in that would get him run down in the middle of a Manhattan street? And why did Adrian Santoro think I might be next? The police station smelled like burnt coffee and institutional cleaning products. I sat in a hard plastic chair, a shock blanket draped over my shoulders despite the overheated air of the precinct, and tried to answer Detective Sarah Walsh's questions for the third time. My coffee had gone cold in its styrofoam cup, forgotten on the scarred table between us. "Let's go through it one more time, Ms. Carter." Detective Walsh was in her mid-40s, with iron gray hair pulled back in a severe ponytail and eyes that had seen too much to be easily fooled. "You were leaving work at St. Catherine's Emergency Department when you encountered Derek Morrison on the street." "Yes." My voice sounded hollow in my own ears. Jennifer Rodriguez, another nurse, was walking with me to the subway. Derek was waiting near the coffee shop at the corner of 3rd and 47th. And this encounter, how would you characterize it? I glanced at Jennifer, who sat in a chair against the wall, her own shock blanket abandoned beside her. She nodded encouragingly. "He was drunk, angry. He grabbed my arm when I tried to walk away. That's when Mr. Santoro intervened." Detective Walsh made a note on her pad. "Adrian Santoro. Tell me about him." There's not much to tell. I'd never met him before tonight. He saw Derek grab me and told him to let go. Derek got aggressive, but Mr. Santoro stayed calm. Eventually, Derek walked away, and then... I swallowed hard, seeing again that moment of impact, Derek's body thrown through the air. Then the car came. A 2019 black Escalade, according to witnesses. No plates visible, heavily tinted windows. Detective Walsh flipped through her notes. Several people said it looked like the driver was aiming for Mr. Morrison, that he actually accelerated before impact. I was looking at Derek. I saw him turn, saw the car, but everything happened so fast. My hands were shaking again. I pressed them flat against my thighs, trying to stop the trembling. Mr. Santoro pulled me back. I think I would have run into the street. Mr. Santoro also told responding officers that he believed the incident was deliberate, that Mr. Morrison was specifically targeted. Detective Walsh leaned forward, her expression intent. "Did Derek Morrison ever mention being in any kind of trouble? Owing money to anyone? Being involved in anything illegal?" "No. Derek is an investment analyst at Whitmore and Associates. He managed portfolios for wealthy clients. As far as I knew, his life was completely ordinary." I paused, then added quietly, "Except for his drinking and his temper." "How long were you in a relationship with him?" 18 months. We met at a hospital fundraiser. He seemed charming at first. Successful, generous, attentive. The familiar shame crept up my spine. The problem started about 6 months in. He became controlling, jealous. The drinking got worse. I tried to leave several times, but he'd always convince me to give him another chance. "When did you definitively end the relationship?" "A week ago. I told him I was done, that I needed him to stop contacting me. He's been showing up at my apartment and workplace ever since." Detective Walsh made more notes, her expression unreadable. "Had you considered filing a restraining order?" "I was planning to do it tomorrow." The words felt like a confession. I know I should have done it sooner. I just kept thinking maybe he'd accept it and move on, that involving the legal system would only make him angrier. "Ms. Carter, I'm not judging your choices. I've seen enough domestic situations to know it's never as simple as just walking away." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "But I need to ask, is there any reason someone might think you knew something about Derek's activities? Any indication he might have been involved in something that would make him a target?" I shook my head. "No. I mean, he was secretive about work sometimes. Would take calls in another room, be vague about certain clients. But I assumed that was just confidentiality, protecting his client's privacy." "Did he ever mention the name Liam O'Sullivan?" The question caught me off guard. "No. Who is that?" Someone Derek Morrison had recent contact with, according to his phone records. Detective Walsh closed her notebook. Look, I'm going to be straight with you. What happened tonight doesn't add up to a simple drunk driving accident. The fact that the vehicle fled the scene, that it appeared to deliberately target Mr. Morrison, suggests something more sinister. Until we know more, I'd recommend you be careful. Vary your routine. Stay aware of your surroundings. A chill ran through me, despite the stuffy warmth of the room. You think someone might come after me? I think if Derek Morrison was involved in something dangerous, anyone connected to him could potentially be at risk. That's all I'm saying. She stood, handing me a business card. If you remember anything else, or if anything unusual happens, call me immediately. Anytime, day or night. Jennifer and I left the station just after 3 a.m. The snow had stopped, leaving the city hushed and white under streetlights. Jennifer insisted on taking me back to her place in Brooklyn rather than letting me go home alone. I was too exhausted to argue. Her apartment was small but warm, filled with photos of family and the accumulated comfort of someone who'd lived in the same place for years. She made chamomile tea that I didn't drink and set me up on her couch with blankets and pillows. Try to sleep, she said softly, squeezing my shoulder. I'll be right in the next room if you need anything. But sleep was impossible. I lay in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, replaying the night's events in an endless loop. Derek's face when he'd grabbed me, that mixture of anger and desperation. Adrian Santoro's calm intervention, the controlled authority in his voice. The car accelerating, Derek's body flying through the air. And Detective Walsh's question. Did he ever mention Liam O'Sullivan? I pulled out my phone, opened a browser, and typed in the name. The results made my blood run cold. Liam O'Sullivan was a name that appeared in numerous articles about organized crime in New York. He was described as a person of interest in various investigations, but had never been convicted of anything. The articles were careful with their language, dancing around direct accusations, but the implication was clear. Liam O'Sullivan was connected to Irish organized crime operations in the city. Why would Derek have been in contact with someone like that? I dug deeper, searching for any connection between Derek's firm, Whitmore and Associates, and O'Sullivan. Nothing obvious appeared, but I found several articles about the firm itself. It specialized in high-net-worth clients, offering discreet financial services and offshore investment opportunities. The kind of language that could mean anything from tax-efficient strategies to outright money laundering. Had Derek been involved in something illegal? Had he been helping O'Sullivan launder money? My phone buzzed with an incoming text, making me jump. Unknown number. Unknown. Can't sleep either, I imagine. How are you holding up? Me. Who is this? Unknown. Adrian Santoro. I had Jennifer give me your number before you left the precinct. Hope that's all right. I sat up, suddenly wide awake. It's fine. Why are you texting me at 3 a.m.? Adrian. Because I saw the wheels turning in your head when Detective Walsh mentioned O'Sullivan. And I know you well enough, even after only a few hours, to guess that you're now searching for answers online. Me. How could you possibly know that? Adrian. You're a nurse. Your job is to understand what's wrong and fix it. You apply the same logic to everything else. You can't sleep until you understand what happened tonight. He wasn't wrong. Okay, so why are you really texting me? Adrian. To tell you to stop searching. O'Sullivan is dangerous, and the less you know about him, the safer you'll be. Me. How do you know about O'Sullivan? There was a longer pause before his reply came through. Adrian. I make it my business to know about men like him. Trust me when I say that digging into this will only put you at risk. Me. Detective Walsh thinks I might already be at risk. That whoever targeted Derek might think I know something. Adrian. She's right to be concerned, which is why I'm offering my help. Me. What kind of help? Adrian. Protection, resources, information when necessary. Me. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Another pause. Longer this time. Adrian. Let's just say I have my reasons. We should meet tomorrow. There are things you need to know about Derek Morrison's activities, and I'd rather explain in person. Me. How do you know about Derek's activities? Adrian. Tomorrow, Amelia. Get some sleep if you can. I'll be in touch. He went offline before I could respond. I stared at the phone, my mind racing with new questions. Who exactly was Adrian Santoro? How did he know about O'Sullivan and Derek's connection? And why was he so interested in helping me? I pulled up a new browser window and typed in his name. The results were sparse. A few society page mentions of Adrian Santoro attending charity galas and art gallery openings, always photographed with beautiful women but never the same one twice. There were references to business interests in import, export, real estate development, and private security. The language was deliberately vague, the kind of careful wording that suggested much but confirmed nothing. One article from a business magazine caught my attention. The New Guard: How a Generation of Entrepreneurs is Reshaping New York Commerce. Adrian was featured among several other young businessmen who'd built successful enterprises in the city. The article praised his innovative approaches to traditional industries and his connections throughout the city's business community. Reading between the lines, I got the distinct impression that Adrian Santoro moved in circles that intersected with both legitimate business and something considerably less legitimate. The kind of man who knew people like Liam O'Sullivan because he operated in the same shadowy spaces. The question was, which side of that line did Adrian actually stand on? My phone buzzed again. This time it was an email from the hospital's HR department marked urgent. With growing dread, I opened it. Dear Ms. Carter, we regret to inform you that, following tonight's incident involving the death of Derek Morrison, and in consultation with our legal department, we must place you on administrative leave pending the completion of the police investigation. This is standard procedure in such circumstances, and should not be construed as disciplinary action. You will continue to receive your base pay during this period. We will be in touch with further information as it becomes available. Administrative leave, which meant I couldn't work, couldn't lose myself in the familiar routines of the ER, couldn't distract myself with other people's emergencies. I'd be stuck at home, alone with my thoughts and fears, while the investigation dragged on. And without the structure of my shifts, without the security of the hospital, I'd be more vulnerable than ever if someone really was targeting people connected to Derek. I must have finally dozed off around dawn, because I woke to the smell of coffee and bacon and Jennifer's soft voice on the phone in the kitchen. My phone showed 9 missed calls, 3 from numbers I didn't recognize, 2 from my apartment building super, 1 from Detective Walsh, and 3 from a blocked number. I listened to the voicemails in order. The unknown numbers were reporters wanting comments about Derek's death. The super was calling to tell me that someone had been asking about me last night, trying to get into the building. Detective Walsh wanted me to come back to the station to answer a few more questions. The blocked number had left no message, just dead air. "You're up," Jennifer said, appearing in the doorway with 2 mugs of coffee. "I heard your phone going crazy. The press?" "Among others." I accepted the coffee gratefully, wrapping my cold hands around the warm mug. "The super said someone was trying to get into my building last night." Jennifer's expression darkened. "You're not going back there alone. Not until this is sorted out." "I got put on administrative leave. Email came through at 4 this morning." "Shit." She sat down beside me. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. You're staying here for now. We'll go to your place together later to pick up some clothes and whatever else you need. And then we're going to figure out how to keep you safe." Before I could respond, my phone rang again. Adrian Santoro. "Hello?" I answered cautiously. "Good morning, Amelia. I hope I'm not calling too early." His voice was warm, calm, as if we were old friends rather than virtual strangers connected by tragedy. "Have you checked your email yet?" "Just the one from my employer putting me on leave." "Check again. You should have received something from me about 5 minutes ago." I put him on speaker and opened my email. Sure enough, there was a message from an address I didn't recognize. A Centauro Secure Com. Net. The email contained a single line of text and an attachment. "Read this before we meet today. Come alone." The address below. The attachment was a PDF of police reports, financial documents, and surveillance photos. I opened it, my hands starting to shake as I scrolled through page after page of evidence that Derek Morrison had been living a double life I'd known nothing about. Bank statements showing deposits of hundreds of thousands of dollars that couldn't be explained by his legitimate salary. Photos of Derek meeting with Liam O'Sullivan and other men whose faces had been flagged with notations like "known associate of O'Sullivan Organization" and "suspected involvement in money laundering operations." Transcripts of phone conversations where Derek discussed cleaning money and moving packages. "Oh my God," I whispered. "Now you understand," Adrian said quietly. Derek Morrison wasn't just an investment analyst. He was laundering money for the O'Sullivan Organization, millions of dollars over the past 3 years. "How do you have all this?" My voice was barely audible. "Because I've been investigating the O'Sullivans for the better part of 2 years. Derek Morrison's name came across my desk 6 months ago. I've been building a case against them, and Derek was going to be a key witness." "A witness for what?" "Who are you, really, Adrian?" A pause. "That's what we need to discuss in person. Can you meet me at noon? The address is in the email." I looked at Jennifer, who'd been reading over my shoulder, her eyes wide with shock. She nodded slowly. "I'll be there," I said, "but I'm bringing someone with me." "Come alone, Amelia, for your own safety and theirs." "How do I know this isn't a trap? How do I know you're not working with O'Sullivan?" "You don't," he admitted. "You'll have to trust your instincts. But ask yourself this. If I meant you harm, why would I have stopped Derek from hurting you last night? Why would I have pulled you back from that car? I had a dozen opportunities to let you get hurt, and I didn't take any of them." He had a point. "Noon. I'll be there." After I hung up, Jennifer grabbed my arm. "Amelia, this is insane. You can't meet with this man alone. You don't know anything about him." "I know he saved my life last night. Twice." I pulled up the email again, staring at the address. It was a building in Tribeca, an upscale area of Manhattan. And he's the only person who seems to know what's really going on with Derek and why someone might have wanted him dead. Or he's the person who wanted Derek dead and is now tying up loose ends. The thought had occurred to me, but something in Adrian's voice, in the way he'd intervened last night, made me think Jennifer was wrong. There was something protective in his manner, something that suggested he really did want to help, rather than harm. "I need to know the truth," I said finally. "I need to understand what Derek was involved in and whether I'm really in danger. Adrian has answers. Whatever his agenda is, at least he's offering information." Jennifer sighed, recognizing the stubborn set of my jaw. "Fine, but I'm going with you, and I'm waiting right outside wherever this meeting is. And if you're not out in an hour, I'm calling the police." "Deal." We spent the rest of the morning at my apartment, packing a bag while Jennifer kept watch at the windows. Everything looked normal. The same familiar street, the same neighbors coming and going, the same bodega on the corner. But I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of eyes tracking my movements. Derek's death was already all over the news. I caught glimpses of reports on Jennifer's phone. Investment analyst killed in hit and run. Police investigating possible targeted attack. Victim had ties to organized crime, sources say. My name hadn't appeared in any articles yet, but it was only a matter of time. At 11:30, Jennifer and I took a cab to Tribeca. The address Adrian had provided turned out to be a luxury high-rise with a doorman and security cameras. Definitely not the kind of place where violent criminals usually operated. But then again, Derek had taught me that monsters could hide behind respectable facades. 1 hour, Jennifer reminded me as I got out of the cab. I mean it, Amelia. 1 hour or I'm calling Walsh. I nodded and approached the building. The doorman checked my name against a list and directed me to the top floor. As the elevator climbed, my heart rate increased with each passing floor. What was I walking into? Who was Adrian Santoro, really? The elevator opened directly into a penthouse apartment that took my breath away. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of Manhattan. The furnishings were modern but warm, expensive without being ostentatious. And standing by those windows, silhouetted against the bright winter sky, was Adrian Santoro. He turned as I entered, and in the full light of day, I got my first real look at him. He was younger than I'd initially thought. Mid-30s, perhaps, with dark hair and eyes that seemed to see right through me. He wore dark jeans and a fitted black sweater that highlighted his athletic build. Handsome, yes, but more than that, compelling in a way that made it hard to look away. Amelia, thank you for coming. He gestured to a seating area near the windows. Please, sit. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? Answers, I said, remaining standing. Starting with who you really are and how you knew Derek Morrison. Adrian smiled slightly, as if he'd expected no less. Fair enough. My name is Adrian Santoro, and I'm the head of what you might call a private security and intelligence firm. We handle sensitive situations for clients who value discretion. That's vague. It's meant to be. But in Derek's case, I wasn't working for a client. I was working for myself. He paused, choosing his words carefully. The O'Sullivan organization has been expanding their operations in New York for the past 5 years. They're into everything: racketeering, extortion, drug trafficking, and most lucratively, money laundering. Derek Morrison was helping them clean money through his firm, Whitmore and Associates. So you're what? A private investigator? Something like that. I've been gathering evidence against the O'Sullivans, building a case that I plan to turn over to federal authorities. Derek was going to be a crucial witness. 3 days ago, he contacted me through an intermediary and said he wanted out, that he'd testify in exchange for protection. My legs suddenly felt weak. I sat down heavily in the chair Adrian had indicated. Derek was going to testify against them? Yes. He'd gotten in over his head and realized the O'Sullivans weren't the kind of people you could simply walk away from. He thought cooperating with law enforcement was his only chance at survival. Adrian sat down across from me. I was supposed to meet with him tomorrow to finalize the arrangements, but someone found out about his plans and decided to eliminate the threat. The car last night, that was them? Almost certainly. Liam O'Sullivan is ruthless when it comes to protecting his organization. Derek's death sends a clear message to anyone else who might consider cooperating with authorities. I thought about Derek in those final moments, drunk and desperate, trying to reach me. Had he wanted to warn me? Ask for help? Or was grabbing me just one more attempt to control something in a situation spinning wildly out of his grasp? Why are you telling me all this? I asked. What do you want from me? I want to keep you safe, Adrian said simply. The O'Sullivans don't know how much Derek told you about their operations. They might assume he confided in you, that you have information that could be used against them. Even if you don't, and I believe you when you say Derek kept you in the dark, they might not be willing to take that chance. So, I'm a target now, a loose end that needs to be eliminated. Potentially, yes, but I'm offering you protection. Security, surveillance, everything necessary to ensure your safety until the O'Sullivans are brought down. Why? I stood up, pacing to the windows, needing movement to process all of this. You don't know me. Why would you go to such lengths to protect a stranger? Adrian rose as well, moving to stand beside me at the window. Because Derek Morrison's death is my fault. I should have moved him into protective custody immediately, instead of waiting for our meeting. I underestimated how quickly the O'Sullivans would act. He died because I miscalculated, and I won't make that same mistake with you. There was genuine regret in his voice, a weight of responsibility that I recognized from my own profession. How many times had I second-guessed decisions in the ER, wondering if a patient might have survived if I'd acted just a little faster, recognized the signs just a little sooner? I can't just put my life on hold indefinitely, I said. I have a job, an apartment, a life, all of which will still be there when this is over. But none of it matters if you're dead. He turned to face me directly. I know this is overwhelming. I know you have no reason to trust me, but I'm the best chance you have at staying alive long enough for this to be resolved. How long will that take? Weeks, maybe. A month at most. I already have substantial evidence against the O'Sullivans. With Derek dead, they'll be scrambling to cover their tracks, which means they'll make mistakes. Those mistakes will be the openings we need to bring them down. I thought about my apartment, already compromised by someone trying to get in last night. My job, already suspended indefinitely. My routine, which Detective Walsh had warned me to change anyway. Adrian was right about one thing. My normal life was already on hold. The only question was whether I spent that time in hiding alone or accepted his offer of protection. What would this arrangement look like? I asked finally. You'd stay in a secure location? Not here. Somewhere the O'Sullivans couldn't find even if they tried. You'd have a security detail, people I trust absolutely, watching over you around the clock. You could still do most of your normal activities, just with precautions. I'd be a prisoner. You'd be alive, he corrected gently. There's a difference. I looked out at the city sprawling below us, at all those people going about their normal lives, completely unaware of the dark currents flowing beneath the surface. 3 days ago, I'd been one of them. Now I was standing in a stranger's penthouse, contemplating going into hiding from the Irish mob. I need time to think about this, I said. You don't have time, Adrian replied. Every hour you're exposed increases the risk. The O'Sullivans know who you are, where you live, where you work. If they decide you're a threat, they'll act swiftly and without mercy. My phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. 55 minutes. Everything okay? My friend is waiting outside. She's going to call the police if I'm not down in 5 minutes. Adrian nodded. Then let me make you a deal. Come back tonight. Bring your friend if you want. I'll have more information to share by then, including proof of the O'Sullivans' activities and the immediate threat they pose to you. Once you've seen everything, you can make an informed decision about whether to accept my protection. It was a reasonable request. More than reasonable, considering what he was offering. Tonight, then. But I want Detective Walsh there, too. If this is real, she needs to know about it. Something flickered across Adrian's face. Surprise, perhaps, or respect. Agreed. But Amelia, don't go home. Don't go anywhere predictable. The O'Sullivans may already be watching you. If they think you've become a problem, they'll move quickly to eliminate that problem. Where should I go? He pulled out his phone and typed quickly. I'm sending you an address. It's a hotel in Midtown. Ask for a room under the name Carter. It's already paid for. Stay there until tonight. Don't tell anyone except your friend where you are. My phone buzzed with the incoming address. You've already booked me a hotel room? I anticipated you'd need somewhere safe to stay. I hope that's not too presumptuous. It was absolutely presumptuous. It was also practical, thoughtful, and exactly what I needed. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Adrian said quietly. This is just the beginning. Before this is over, you may wish we'd never met. I met his eyes, seeing the weight of knowledge there, the burden of whatever secrets he carried about the O'Sullivans and their operations. You saved my life last night. Whatever happens next, that matters. Then let me continue saving it. Come back tonight. Hear everything I have to tell you. Then decide whether you trust me enough to let me protect you. I nodded and headed for the door. As I reached it, Adrian called out, "Amelia, be careful. Watch everyone. Trust no one except your friend. The O'Sullivans have people everywhere, and you won't know who they are until it's too late." His words followed me into the elevator and down to the street, where Jennifer was waiting with visible relief. As we walked away from the building, I couldn't shake the feeling that my life had just shifted permanently, that there would forever be a before and after this moment. Before, when I'd been ignorant of the darkness Derek had been involved in. And after, when I'd stepped willingly into that darkness, trusting a stranger to guide me through it safely. The question was, had I just made the best decision of my life, or the worst? The hotel room was nicer than anywhere I'd stayed in years. Jennifer sat cross-legged on one of the beds, scrolling through her phone with growing alarm as she found article after article about Liam O'Sullivan and his organization. I stood at the window, watching the afternoon traffic below, my mind replaying every interaction I'd ever had with Derek, searching for signs I'd missed. "Amelia, listen to this," Jennifer said, her voice tight. "This is from last year. 3 witnesses in an ongoing federal investigation into the O'Sullivan organization have disappeared in the past 6 months. Authorities suspect foul play but have been unable to locate the individuals or prove criminal activity. 3 people, just gone. Adrian said Derek was going to testify. That's why they killed him. And they'll do the same to you if they think you know anything." Jennifer set down her phone and looked at me directly. "You need to accept Santoro's protection. Whatever reservations you have about him, he's offering to keep you alive. That's what matters. We don't even know who he really is. What if he's part of this somehow? What if he's connected to O'Sullivan? Then why would he have saved you last night? Why warn you at all?" Jennifer stood and crossed to the window beside me. "Look, my instincts are usually good about people. When I met Derek, something felt off about him, but I didn't want to say anything because you seemed happy. I should have trusted that feeling. But with Santoro, I don't get that same vibe. He seems dangerous, yes, but not to you." I wanted to believe her. More than that, I wanted to believe Adrian was exactly what he claimed to be, someone trying to bring down a criminal organization, someone willing to protect me in the process. But trust was expensive currency when your ex-boyfriend had just been murdered by the mob. My phone rang. Detective Walsh. "Ms. Carter, I need you to come to the station. We've developed some new information about Derek Morrison that I need to discuss with you in person." "I'm with a friend right now. Can we meet somewhere else?" A pause. "Where are you staying? I can come to you." I glanced at Jennifer, who shook her head firmly. "I'd rather meet on neutral ground. There's a coffee shop on 57th and Lexington. Can you meet me there in an hour?" "I'll be there. Ms. Carter, I need to ask. Have you noticed anyone following you today? Anyone showing unusual interest in your movements?" My heart rate kicked up. "No. Why?" "Just a precaution. The investigation has taken some turns that suggest Derek Morrison's associates might have reason to contact people connected to him. If anyone approaches you, don't engage. Call me immediately." After she hung up, I relayed the conversation to Jennifer. "Associates. She means O'Sullivan's people." "Which means the police are starting to piece together what really happened." Jennifer grabbed her jacket. "Come on, we're not going anywhere alone. And we're taking a cab, not the subway. Too many isolated platforms, too many opportunities for someone to corner you." The paranoia was setting in, turning ordinary city activities into potential threats. Every person on the street became a possible danger. Every glance in my direction felt weighted with menace. By the time we reached the coffee shop, my nerves were scraped raw, Detective Walsh was already there, sitting at a corner table with her back to the wall and a clear view of both entrances. She'd changed from her rumpled suit of the previous night into fresh clothes, but the exhaustion around her eyes suggested she hadn't slept much either. "Thank you for coming," she said, as Jennifer and I sat down. "I'll get straight to it. We've been digging into Derek Morrison's financial records and his activities at Whitmore and Associates. What we've found is extensive evidence of money laundering on behalf of several criminal organizations, primarily the O'Sullivan Group." "Adrian told me," I said, then immediately regretted the words when Walsh's eyes sharpened. "Adrian Santoro told you about our investigation." "He has his own investigation. He showed me documents this morning, bank records, surveillance photos. He said Derek was going to testify." Walsh's expression darkened. "When did Santoro tell you this?" "This morning. He called me early, asked me to meet him. He said he'd been building a case against the O'Sullivans, and that Derek had agreed to cooperate." "Did he mention how he obtained these documents? How he knew about Derek's planned cooperation?" Something in her tone put me on edge. "He said he runs a private security and intelligence firm, that he'd been investigating the O'Sullivans for 2 years. Walsh leaned back, her hands flat on the table. "Amelia, I need you to listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Adrian Santoro is not a licensed private investigator. He doesn't run a security firm. What he runs is an organization that operates in the gray areas between legal and illegal activity. He has connections throughout the city's criminal underworld, and while we've never been able to prove he's directly involved in criminal enterprises, he's certainly adjacent to them." My stomach dropped. "You think he's working with O'Sullivan?" "No, actually. I think he's working against O'Sullivan, but not for the reasons he told you." Walsh pulled out a tablet and opened a file. "Adrian Santoro is the son of Giovanni Santoro, who was once one of the most powerful organized crime figures in New York before his death 5 years ago. Adrian inherited his father's connections. What he didn't inherit was his father's territory, most of which was absorbed by other organizations, including the O'Sullivans." The room seemed to tilt around me. "You're saying Adrian is part of organized crime?" "Not in the traditional sense. He's transitioned much of his father's operation into legitimate businesses, real estate, import, export, private security. But he maintains relationships with people in that world, and he has resources that wouldn't be available to someone operating entirely within legal boundaries." Walsh's expression softened slightly. "That doesn't necessarily mean he's lying about wanting to protect you, but his motives are probably more complex than he's letting on." Jennifer spoke up for the first time. "So what are his real motives?" "The O'Sullivans have been expanding aggressively over the past 5 years, taking territory that used to belong to other organizations, including the remnants of the Santoro operation. Adrian has been systematically working to undermine them, gathering intelligence, identifying weaknesses in their structure. Having Derek Morrison testify would have dealt a significant blow to their money laundering operations. With Derek dead, Adrian needs another way to hurt them." "And I'm that way," I said slowly. "I'm leverage he can use against them somehow." "Possibly. Or he genuinely wants to protect you, because he feels responsible for Derek's death. Or both." Walsh closed the tablet. "The point is, you need to be careful about trusting him. His interests may align with yours right now, but that could change. What should I do?" "Ideally, let us handle it. Accept police protection, testify about what you know, let the legal system work." "But Derek was killed before he could testify. What makes you think I'd be any safer with police protection?" Walsh didn't have an immediate answer, which was answer enough. The NYPD's resources, however extensive, had limits. O'Sullivan had demonstrated a willingness to kill witnesses in broad daylight. Could the police really protect me from someone that brazen? "There's another option," Walsh said finally. We have a federal prosecutor who's been building a RICO case against the O'Sullivans. With Derek's death, they've accelerated their timeline. If you're willing to cooperate, to tell them everything you know about Derek's activities and potentially testify, they can offer you witness protection. Witness protection? For what? I don't know anything. Derek kept me completely in the dark. But the O'Sullivans don't know that. And the mere fact that you were in a relationship with Derek for 18 months makes you valuable. You can testify about his lifestyle, his unexplained income, his associations. It's not nothing. Jennifer grabbed my hand. Amelia, witness protection means a new identity, relocating, cutting ties with everyone you know. Is that really what you want? The question echoed in the hollow space that had opened up in my chest. Disappear completely? Leave behind not just my apartment and job, but my entire identity? Never see Jennifer or any of my friends again? It seemed like a fate worse than the threat I was trying to escape. I need time to think, I said. Time is something we don't have much of, Walsh replied. The O'Sullivans will move quickly to eliminate any potential threats. Every day you're exposed is a day they could decide to act. My phone buzzed. Adrian. Detective Walsh is with you right now, isn't she? I felt a chill. How did he know that? Me. How do you know where I am? Adrian, because I have people watching you, keeping you safe. I assume Walsh told you about my background, my father's organization? Me. Yes. Adrian. Did she also tell you that I've provided information that led to the arrest of over a dozen criminal figures in the past 3 years? That I've been cooperating with federal authorities to dismantle organizations like the O'Sullivans? I looked at Walsh. Adrian says he's been cooperating with federal authorities. Is that true? Her expression was carefully neutral. He's provided information, yes, but cooperation implies a formal relationship, which is not entirely accurate. Santoro operates independently, then shares intelligence when it suits his purposes. Me. Walsh says you only share information when it benefits you. Adrian. Of course. I'm not a government agent. I'm a businessman protecting my interests. But right now, my interests align with yours. Destroying the O'Sullivan organization before they kill anyone else. Adrian. I know Walsh offered you witness protection. If you want that, I'll respect your choice, but I can offer you something they can't. The ability to keep your life, your identity, your freedom. You wouldn't be running or hiding. You'd be protected while still being yourself. Me. At what cost? Adrian. We'll discuss that tonight. Bring Walsh if you want. Let her hear everything I have to say. Then make your decision with all the information available. I showed the messages to Walsh. She frowned. He's not wrong about witness protection. It's effective, but it comes at a high cost. If you choose Santoro's protection instead, at least keep me in the loop. Don't let him isolate you completely. I won't, I promised, though I wasn't entirely sure I could keep that promise if Adrian decided isolation was necessary for my safety. After Walsh left, Jennifer and I returned to the hotel. The meeting with Adrian was set for 7 that evening, and I spent the intervening hours trying to research both him and the O'Sullivans, looking for any information that might help me make sense of this impossible situation. What I found painted a picture of 2 forces locked in a complex dance. The O'Sullivans were old money, an organization with roots going back generations, built on loyalty, violence, and an iron-fisted control of their territory. Adrian's family was newer, having risen to power only in the past 30 years, but they'd been smart about transitioning into legitimate businesses while maintaining their influence in less legal spheres. Giovanni Santoro's death had created a power vacuum that other organizations had rushed to fill. Adrian, younger and less experienced than his father, had been forced to give ground, to consolidate his holdings and focus on protecting what remained rather than expanding. The O'Sullivans had been particularly aggressive in taking territory that had once belonged to the Santoros. So Adrian had a personal stake in bringing them down. He wasn't just some altruistic protector. He was settling scores, reclaiming lost power, eliminating a rival. That didn't necessarily make him dangerous to me, but it did complicate the picture considerably. At 6:30, Jennifer and I left the hotel and took a cab back to Adrian's building in Tribeca. This time, Detective Walsh was waiting in the lobby, looking distinctly uncomfortable in the upscale surroundings. Her partner, Detective Morrison, stood beside her, a tall black man with graying temples and sharp eyes that assessed Jennifer and me with professional thoroughness. "Ms. Carter, Ms. Rodriguez," Walsh greeted us. "I appreciate you letting us attend this meeting. I want to see what Santoro has to say." The elevator ride up was tense and silent. When the doors opened into Adrian's penthouse, we found him waiting with another man I hadn't seen before. Older, perhaps 60, with silver hair and a suit that probably cost more than my car. "Detective Walsh, Detective Morrison." Adrian greeted them with perfect courtesy. "Thank you for coming. This is my attorney, Richard Chen. I wanted him present to ensure everything discussed tonight is properly documented and legal." "Your attorney?" Morrison's tone was skeptical. "This isn't a negotiation, Santoro." "No, but it is a delicate situation that requires careful handling." Adrian gestured to the seating area. "Please, everyone sit. I'll explain everything." Once we were all settled, Adrian launched into a detailed presentation. He had a projector set up, and as he spoke, images and documents appeared on the white wall behind him. Phone records, financial statements, surveillance photos, even audio recordings of conversations between Derek and known O'Sullivan associates. Derek Morrison began working with the O'Sullivans approximately 3 years ago, Adrian began. His role was to launder money through Whitmore and Associates, making illegal income appear legitimate through a series of complex financial transactions. He was good at it, very good. Over 3 years, he cleaned approximately $50 million for them. The number made my head spin. $50 million. And I'd had no idea. 6 months ago, Derek made a mistake. He skimmed $200,000 from an O'Sullivan account, thinking it wouldn't be noticed in the larger flow of money. But Liam O'Sullivan noticed. He confronted Derek, who claimed it was an accounting error and promised to replace the money immediately. Adrian clicked to a new image, a photo of Derek meeting with a man I didn't recognize in what appeared to be a parking garage. This was taken 4 weeks ago. Derek was selling information to a rival organization, trying to raise the money to pay back what he'd stolen. But that action made him an even bigger liability. He wasn't just a thief now. He was a potential informant. "How did you obtain all this information?" Morrison demanded. "These photos, these recordings, they're all potentially illegal evidence." "The evidence was obtained through legal means," Chen interjected smoothly. "Mr. Santoro employs a team of licensed private investigators who conduct surveillance in accordance with New York law. As for the recordings, they were made in public spaces where there's no expectation of privacy." Walsh's expression suggested she didn't entirely buy that explanation, but she didn't push it. "Continue." "Derek realized he was in danger. He contacted me 3 weeks ago, offering to testify in exchange for protection. I was vetting his information, ensuring he really could deliver what he promised, when the O'Sullivans decided he'd become too much of a risk." Adrian's voice hardened. "They killed him to send a message. No one betrays the organization and lives." He clicked to a new image, and I gasped. It was a photo of me, taken from a distance, walking to work at the hospital. This was taken 2 days before Derek's death. The O'Sullivans have been watching everyone associated with Derek, assessing potential threats. Another image appeared. Jennifer and me at the coffee shop yesterday morning. Then another of me entering my apartment building. They know where you live, where you work, who your friends are. They're deciding right now whether you pose a threat worth eliminating. Then why haven't they acted? Walsh asked. Because they're not certain yet what you know. Killing Derek sent their message. Killing his girlfriend, especially one with no obvious connection to their operations, would draw unwanted attention. They're weighing the risk of leaving you alive against the risk of the investigation that would follow your death. Adrian paused. But that calculus could change at any moment. He clicked through several more images, men I didn't recognize in various locations around the city. These are known O'Sullivan enforcers. All of them have been active in Manhattan this week. More than usual. They're preparing for something. I believe they're planning to tie up loose ends before federal prosecutors can move against them. You think they're planning to kill Amelia? Jennifer said flatly. I think it's a very real possibility, which is why I'm offering protection. Adrian looked directly at me. I have resources the police don't. Safe houses they can't find. Security personnel who are experts in keeping people alive in exactly these situations. I can give you your life back while still keeping you safe. In exchange for what? Morrison asked. You don't do anything for free, Santoro. What's your angle? Adrian smiled slightly. My angle is destroying the O'Sullivan organization. They've been a thorn in my side for 5 years, taking what was my family's, killing people who worked for us, encroaching on territory we'd held for decades. Helping Ms. Carter keeps a potential witness alive, which helps the federal case against them. It's enlightened self-interest. At least you're honest about it, Walsh said dryly. I'm always honest, Detective. That's one advantage I have over the O'Sullivans. I don't hide what I am. He turned back to me. Amelia, I know this is overwhelming. I know you have no reason to trust me beyond what I've shown you tonight. But I need you to understand something. The threat to your life is real and immediate. Within the next few days, possibly within the next 24 hours, Liam O'Sullivan will make a decision about whether you live or die. I'm offering you the chance to survive that decision. The room fell silent. Everyone was looking at me, waiting for my response. Jennifer's hand found mine, squeezing gently. Walsh and Morrison watched with carefully neutral expressions, professionals trying not to influence my choice. Chen the attorney studied his tablet, making notes. And Adrian. Adrian watched me with those dark eyes, patient and intense, waiting for me to decide whether to trust him with my life. If I accept your protection, I said slowly, what exactly does that mean? Where would I stay? What would my life look like? You'd stay in a secure location, a property I own that's not connected to my name in any public records. You'd have a security detail, people I trust absolutely. You could maintain your normal routines as much as possible, though with precautions. The goal is to keep you safe without making you a prisoner. For how long? Until the O'Sullivans are no longer a threat. That could be weeks or months, depending on how quickly federal prosecutors can move. And if I refuse? If I choose witness protection instead? Adrian's expression didn't change. Then I respect your choice and wish you safety. But understand that witness protection means disappearing completely. You'd lose everything. Your identity, your career, your relationships. Is that really what you want? I looked at Jennifer, at Walsh, at Morrison, then back at Adrian. Can I have until tomorrow morning to decide? No. Adrian's voice was firm. The O'Sullivans are watching this building. They'll know you met with me tonight, which will make them paranoid. They might decide you've become a definite threat and act immediately. You need to make a choice now. Tonight. And then we need to get you somewhere safe before they can move against you. The walls seem to be closing in. That's not fair. You can't rush me into a decision this important. Life isn't fair, Amelia. The O'Sullivans certainly aren't fair. I'm giving you the best options available under very bad circumstances. He leaned forward. I know you're scared. I know this feels impossible. But you're stronger than you think. You've already survived one attempt by Derek to drag you into this mess. You can survive this too, but only if you make a decision. Walsh spoke up. Amelia, if you want witness protection, I can have marshals here within the hour. You'd be safe tonight, and we'd work out the details tomorrow. Or, Adrian said, you stay with me. Keep your life, your identity, your freedom, just with security around you until this is resolved. I closed my eyes, trying to think clearly through the fear and confusion. Both options meant trusting someone, either the federal marshals and witness protection system, or Adrian Santoro and his organization. Both came with risks. Both required a leap of faith into an unknown future. But only one option let me keep being Amelia Carter. I'll accept your protection, I said, opening my eyes to meet Adrian's gaze. But on one condition, Detective Walsh stays in the loop. I want regular contact with her, updates on the investigation. I won't be completely cut off from the legal system. Adrian nodded. Agreed. Walsh can have my direct number. We'll coordinate on anything related to the federal case against the O'Sullivans. Walsh looked relieved. I'll check in daily, Amelia, and if at any point you feel unsafe with Santoro, you call me immediately. We'll extract you. No questions asked. Thank you. Then we need to move now, Adrian said, standing. Jennifer, you should go home. The O'Sullivans have no reason to target you, but I'd recommend varying your routine for the next few days just to be safe. Detectives, thank you for coming. I'll be in touch with information as I gather it. Everyone stood, the meeting clearly over. Jennifer hugged me tightly. Are you sure about this? She whispered. No, I admitted, but I'm not sure about anything right now. This feels like the least bad option. Call me, every day. I need to know you're okay. I will, I promise. After they all left, I stood in Adrian's penthouse, suddenly alone with the man I'd just entrusted with my life. He was making a phone call in Italian, his voice low and rapid. When he finished, he turned to me. My people are preparing the safe house now. We'll leave in 20 minutes. Pack light. We'll get you anything you need once we're there. I don't have anything to pack. It's all at my apartment. Then we'll shop tomorrow. For tonight, this will have to do. He handed me a shopping bag I hadn't noticed before, filled with basics, toiletries, comfortable clothes in my size, even a book. I anticipated you'd say yes. Confident, aren't you? Prepared. There's a difference. He studied me for a moment. You made the right choice, Amelia. I know you're scared, but I promise you, I will keep you safe, whatever it takes. The intensity in his voice sent a shiver down my spine. This wasn't a casual promise or empty words meant to comfort me. This was a vow, absolute and binding, from someone who took such vows seriously. Why? I asked. You barely know me. Why go to such lengths? Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Because Derek's death is on me. I should have moved faster, protected him better. I won't make that mistake with you. He paused. And because I've seen enough death, enough violence. Saving one life doesn't balance the scales, but it's something. There was a story behind those words, pain and regret that he wasn't ready to share. I didn't push. Instead, I nodded and picked up the shopping bag. 20 minutes then. Let's go. As we left the penthouse and descended in the elevator, I felt my old life falling away like shed skin. Tomorrow, Amelia Carter would effectively disappear, hidden away in Adrian Santoro's safe house while the FBI built their case and the O'Sullivans hunted for threats to eliminate. I'd chosen safety. I'd chosen survival. I just hoped I hadn't also chosen something far more dangerous than the threat I was fleeing. The safe house wasn't what I expected. My imagination had conjured images of some grim, fortress-like structure with barred windows and armed guards pacing the perimeter. Instead, Adrian's SUV pulled up to an elegant brownstone in Brooklyn's Park Slope neighborhood, the kind of home that cost several $1,000,000 and blended seamlessly into the upscale residential block. "This is it?" I asked, peering out the tinted window at the tree-lined street. "Best place to hide is in plain sight," Adrian replied, opening his door. "My neighbors think I'm a tech entrepreneur who travels frequently for work. The couple next door are retirees who spend summers in the Hamptons. The family across the street have young kids who keep them too busy to pay attention to comings and goings." He helped me out of the car, his hand steady at my elbow. The evening air was cold but not bitter, carrying the urban mixture of car exhaust, distant cooking smells, and the indefinable scent of a living neighborhood. 2 men emerged from a second vehicle that had followed us, both built like professional athletes, moving with the controlled awareness of trained security personnel. "Amelia, this is Marco and Tony. They'll be your primary security detail." Adrian gestured to each in turn. Marco was shorter but powerfully built, with a shaved head and a scar running through his left eyebrow. Tony was taller, leaner, with dark hair and intelligent eyes that assessed me with professional courtesy. "Ma'am," Marco said with a slight nod. His accent was pure Brooklyn. "We'll keep you safe. Miss Carter," Tony added, "you won't even know we're around most of the time." Inside, the brownstone was beautifully appointed. Hardwood floors, exposed brick walls, modern furniture that managed to feel both expensive and comfortable. The main floor held a spacious living room, dining area, and updated kitchen. Stairs led up to what I assumed were bedrooms. "You'll have the entire second floor," Adrian explained, leading me up the stairs. "Master bedroom, bathroom, and a study if you need space to work or just want privacy. Marco and Tony rotate shifts, but will always be here or immediately outside. I'll be in and out, but you can reach me anytime." The master bedroom was stunning. A king-sized bed with soft linens, large windows overlooking a small back garden, art on the walls that looked original rather than mass-produced. An ensuite bathroom featured a clawfoot tub and a rainfall shower. It was nicer than any place I'd ever lived. "This is too much," I said, feeling overwhelmed. "It's necessary." Adrian set down the shopping bag he'd been carrying. "You'll be spending a lot of time here over the next few weeks. It needs to be comfortable, not just secure." He showed me how to use the security system. Cameras covering every approach to the house, motion sensors, reinforced doors and windows. "The panic button is here." He indicated a small device on the nightstand, disguised as a phone charger. "Press it, and Marco, Tony, and I will respond immediately. Don't hesitate to use it if anything feels wrong." When you say anything, I mean anything. Someone unexpected at the door, a noise that doesn't fit, a feeling that something's off. Your instincts kept you alive this long. Trust them. After Adrian left, I stood in the middle of the bedroom, trying to process the surreal turn my life had taken in less than 48 hours. 2 nights ago, I'd been a trauma nurse heading home from a shift, my biggest problem a difficult ex-boyfriend. Now I was in hiding, protected by what amounted to private security, while the FBI built a case against a criminal organization that might want me dead. My phone buzzed. Jennifer. Jennifer. "Are you safe? Where are you?" Me. "I'm safe. Brooklyn. Can't say exactly where, but it's nice. Nicer than my apartment." Jennifer. "Santoro treating you okay?" Me. "He's been. Surprisingly considerate. The safe house is beautiful. I have my own floor. Security that seems professional." Jennifer. "Still think this is crazy, but I'm glad you're safe. Call me tomorrow?" Me. "Promise." I showered, letting the hot water wash away some of the tension of the evening. The bathroom was stocked with high-end toiletries, the kind I'd always admired but never bought for myself. There was even a robe hanging on the door, soft and warm when I wrapped it around myself afterward. When I emerged, I found that someone, probably Marco, had left a tray of food in the study: soup, bread, fruit, and herbal tea. I hadn't realized how hungry I was until I smelled the food. I ate mechanically, staring out the window at the darkened garden below. A soft knock at the door made me jump. "Amelia? It's Adrian. May I come in?" I tightened the robe's belt and opened the door. He'd changed into casual clothes, jeans, and a dark sweater, which made him seem more approachable than in his earlier suit. He carried a laptop and a folder of documents. "I wanted to go over some ground rules and answer any questions you might have," he said. "But if you're too tired, this can wait until morning." "No, let's do it now. I'm too wired to sleep anyway." We sat in the study, and Adrian opened the folder. "First, your daily routine. I know you're on administrative leave from the hospital, but you're welcome to pursue other activities: reading, online courses, whatever keeps you occupied. I have accounts set up for streaming services, access to virtually any book or resource you might want." "So, I'm not a prisoner?" "You're protected. There's a difference, but it does come with limitations. You can't leave the house without security. You can't contact anyone beyond a pre-approved list: Jennifer, Detective Walsh, your immediate family if you choose. No social media, no posting anything about your location or activities. The O'Sullivans have people who monitor online presence, looking for patterns or clues." "What about work? How long until I can return to the hospital?" Adrian's expression grew serious. "That depends on how quickly we can neutralize the threat. At minimum, several weeks. I'm coordinating with federal prosecutors to accelerate their case against the O'Sullivans, but RICO prosecutions are complex. Building an airtight case takes time. So I just wait here, for weeks, maybe months. I know it's not ideal, but it's the best option to keep you alive." He pulled out several photos from the folder. "These are the men most likely to be assigned to eliminate you if O'Sullivan decides you're a threat. I need you to memorize their faces. If you see any of them anywhere, you activate the panic button immediately." I studied each photo, committing features to memory. Hard faces, cold eyes, men who looked like they'd done terrible things and would do more without hesitation. "Have any of them killed people before?" "All of them. Multiple times. The O'Sullivans don't employ amateurs." Adrian closed the folder. "But don't let that terrify you into paralysis. Fear is healthy. It keeps you alert. But panic will get you killed. Stay calm. Stay aware. Trust the security measures we have in place." "How can you be so calm about all this? Talking about murder like it's just business." Something shifted in his expression, a glimpse of the man beneath the controlled exterior. "Because for people like the O'Sullivans, it is just business. Violence is a tool they use to maintain power and protect their interests. Understanding that, accepting the reality of their world, is the only way to effectively counter them." "And your world? Is violence just business for you too?" Adrian was quiet for a long moment. "My father believed in honor, in loyalty, in protecting our people. He used violence when necessary, yes, but always with purpose, never carelessly. I try to follow his example, to be selective about when force is the answer." "Selective," I repeated. "That's a carefully chosen word. Because the truth is complicated. I've done things I'm not proud of to protect what matters to me. I've made hard choices that haunt me. But I've also tried to move my organization toward legitimacy, to build businesses that don't require violence to succeed." He met my eyes directly. "I'm not a good man, Amelia, but I'm trying to be a better one than my father was. That's the best I can offer." His honesty was disarming. I'd expected deflection or justification, not this stark admission of moral complexity. "Why tell me this? Why not just let me believe you're one of the good guys? Because you deserve to know who you're trusting with your life." and because I need you to understand that the protection I'm offering comes from someone who operates outside normal legal boundaries. If that makes you uncomfortable, if you want to reconsider and choose witness protection instead, I'll understand. I thought about it. Really thought about it. Adrian Santoro was dangerous, connected to a world of violence and crime I'd never wanted any part of. But he was also honest about who he was, what he'd done, what he was capable of doing. That honesty felt more trustworthy than comfortable lies would have been. "I'm not reconsidering," I said finally, "but I appreciate the candor." Relief flickered across his face, quickly concealed. "Good. Then let's discuss one more thing. Your communication with the outside world. Jennifer and Detective Walsh are the only people who should know you're in protective custody. If you need to contact anyone else, family, friends, it goes through me first. I need to vet every conversation to ensure no information leaks that could compromise your location. My parents live in Ohio. We're not close, but they should probably know I'm okay. I'll arrange a secure line for you to call them. Just don't mention Brooklyn, the safe house, or anything about the O'Sullivans. Tell them you're helping with an investigation and you're safe. That's all." After Adrian left, I finally crawled into bed. The sheets were Egyptian cotton, probably worth more than my entire bedding set at home. The mattress was perfectly firm, the pillows exactly right. Under any other circumstances, I would have slept like the dead. Instead, I lay awake, listening to the house settle around me. Distant traffic sounds, the occasional creak of floorboards as Marco moved through his rounds, the hum of the heating system. All of it normal, all of it innocent. But I couldn't stop thinking about those photos. The men who might be looking for me right now. The violence they'd inflicted on others. The casual way they'd killed Derek, treating his life as an inconvenient problem to be solved. I must have eventually dozed off, because I woke to morning light streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee drifting up from the kitchen. My phone showed 8:47 a.m. and a text from Adrian. "Adrian, good morning. Marco made coffee. There's breakfast when you're ready. I'll stop by around noon to check in." I showered and dressed in the clothes from the shopping bag, jeans and a soft sweater that fit perfectly. Downstairs, I found Marco in the kitchen, reading the newspaper and nursing his own coffee. "Morning, Miss Carter," he said, standing as I entered. "Coffee's fresh. I can make eggs, toast, whatever you like." "Just coffee is fine, thank you." I poured myself a cup and sat at the kitchen island. "Have you worked with Adrian long?" 5 years, since he took over after his father passed." Marco returned to his seat but remained alert, his attention divided between me and the security monitors discreetly positioned on a nearby shelf. "He's a good boss. Fair. Doesn't ask us to do anything he wouldn't do himself." "What exactly do you do for him, besides protect people like me?" Marco's expression became more guarded. "Security consulting, property management, whatever needs doing." The diplomatic non-answer told me plenty. Marco was muscle, an enforcer, probably involved in aspects of Adrian's business I was better off not knowing about. But he'd been kind this morning, making coffee and offering breakfast with genuine courtesy. "How often does Adrian need to protect people?" I asked. "Not often. Most threats get handled before they become active problems." Marco caught my expression and added, "Handled meaning resolved through negotiation, legal action, that kind of thing. Adrian prefers peaceful solutions when possible. And when it's not possible, then he does what's necessary. Same as anyone trying to survive in his world." Marco's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression sharpening. "Tony's outside. I'm going to do a perimeter check. Stay inside, away from windows until I get back." "Is something wrong?" "Probably nothing, just being cautious." He moved toward the door, his hand resting on something at his hip. A gun, I realized with a jolt. Marco was armed. After he left, the house felt oppressively quiet. I paced the living room, Coffee forgotten, my heart rate climbing. This was my life now. Security checks, armed guards, constant vigilance against threats I couldn't see or predict. My phone rang. Jennifer. "Hey," I answered, grateful for the distraction. "How are you?" More importantly, how are you? I barely slept worrying about this whole situation. "I'm okay. The safe house is nice. The security seems professional. Adrian's been considerate. Amelia, I've been thinking, what if this is a mistake? What if Santoro is using you somehow? Detective Walsh seems to think he's legitimately trying to help. And honestly, what would he gain by putting me in danger? He could have just let me walk into whatever trap the O'Sullivans have planned." Jennifer sighed. "I know. I just hate this. I hate that you're in hiding, that your life has been turned upside down because of Derek's stupid choices. Derek made his choices. I'm making mine. And right now, this feels like the safest option." We talked for another 20 minutes, Jennifer filling me in on hospital gossip and normal life continuing without me. When we hung up, I felt more grounded, connected to the real world outside this protected bubble. Marco returned shortly after, reporting that everything was clear. Just a delivery van that parked too long. Turned out to be legitimate, but Tony checked it out anyway. The rest of the morning passed slowly. I tried to read but couldn't focus, watched television but found nothing engaging. Finally, I pulled out my phone and opened the documents Adrian had sent me, the evidence of Derek's involvement with the O'Sullivans. Reading through it in detail, I was struck by how thoroughly Derek had deceived me. Separate bank accounts I'd known nothing about, meetings with criminals disguised as business dinners, a whole parallel life conducted right under my nose. Had there been signs? Looking back, yes, his vague answers about work, his unexplained absences, the gifts that seemed too expensive for his stated salary. But I'd explained them away, choosing to believe the story he'd told rather than questioning the inconsistencies. Noon arrived with Adrian's return. He found me in the study, surrounded by printed documents, taking notes on a legal pad. "Going through Derek's file?" he asked, taking a seat across from me. Trying to understand how I missed it all. There were signs, but I just didn't want to see them. That's not unusual. People see what they want to see, especially in relationships. Derek was skilled at manipulation. He had to be to survive in the O'Sullivans' world for 3 years. Adrian paused. "But you did see it eventually. You left him. That took courage. I should have left sooner. Maybe. But you left when you were ready, when you recognized the relationship was wrong. That's what matters." I set down the documents. "Why are you being so kind to me? And please don't say it's just because you feel guilty about Derek. There's more to it than that." Adrian was quiet, choosing his words carefully. "You remind me of someone. My sister, Isabella. She was a nurse too. She had your same determination, your compassion for others." His voice grew softer. "She was killed 5 years ago, caught in crossfire during a dispute between my father's organization and a rival group. Adrian, I'm so sorry. She was innocent. Never involved in the family business. Never even knew the full extent of what our father did. But she died anyway. Collateral damage in someone else's war." He met my eyes. I couldn't save her. I was too late, too slow to recognize the danger. But I can save you. Maybe it doesn't balance the scales, but it's something. Understanding crashed over me. This wasn't just about Derek or the O'Sullivans. This was about Adrian's need for redemption, for a chance to protect someone when he'd failed to protect his sister. "I'm not Isabella," I said gently. "I know, but you deserve the same chance she never got. The chance to live without fear, to have a future free from violence. He stood. I brought lunch. Come eat, and then we'll discuss the next steps in the investigation. Over lunch, excellent Italian takeout that Marco had picked up from a nearby restaurant, Adrian laid out the federal case being built against the O'Sullivans. Money laundering charges based on Derek's files, racketeering charges from a pattern of criminal activity, even murder charges related to several unsolved deaths that investigators now believed were O'Sullivan hits. How long until they move? I asked. Weeks, possibly. They're being thorough, making sure the case is ironclad. But the O'Sullivans are getting nervous. Liam O'Sullivan has been in meetings with his attorneys constantly. He knows something's coming. And he knows I was connected to Derek. Yes. Which is why you're here. Why we're taking no chances with your safety. Adrian's phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression hardening. Excuse me. I need to take this. He stepped into the hallway, speaking in rapid Italian. When he returned, his face was grim. What is it? I asked, my stomach knotting with dread. The O'Sullivans just put out a contract. $50,000 to anyone who can provide information about your whereabouts. He sat down heavily. They've decided you're enough of a threat to actively hunt you. Things just got significantly more dangerous. The safe, comfortable bubble I'd been existing in suddenly felt painfully fragile. $50,000. People had been killed for far less. What do we do? My voice was steadier than I felt. We stay vigilant. We increase security measures, and we accelerate the federal investigation's timeline. Adrian reached across the table, his hand covering mine. You're safe here, Amelia. I promise you that. No one gets to you while I'm protecting you. Looking into his eyes, seeing the absolute conviction there, I believed him. Adrian Santoro might be dangerous, might operate outside the law, might be using me for his own purposes. But he would also die before letting the O'Sullivans reach me. Whether that made me lucky or just differently trapped, I honestly couldn't say. 3 weeks passed in a strange suspension of normal life. The brownstone became my entire world, beautiful, comfortable, and utterly confining. I established routines, morning coffee with Marco or Tony, afternoons reading or taking online courses, evenings when Adrian would visit and update me on the investigation's progress. The O'Sullivans' contract on information about my whereabouts had created a citywide hunt. Detective Walsh reported multiple attempted leads, all of which had proven false. Someone claimed I was staying with Jennifer. O'Sullivan's people had spent days watching her apartment before realizing I wasn't there. Another tip suggested I'd fled to Ohio to stay with my parents. A third, worryingly close to accurate, placed me in Brooklyn, but they'd been searching the wrong neighborhood. They're getting desperate, Adrian said one evening as we sat in the study. He'd started joining me for dinner most nights, bringing food from various restaurants and staying to talk about everything except the threat hanging over us. Desperate people make mistakes. How does that help us? Because the federal investigation is nearly complete. Another week, maybe 2, and they'll have enough to move against the entire organization. He poured me a glass of wine, something expensive from his personal collection. Once the indictments come down, the contract on you becomes meaningless. The O'Sullivans will have bigger problems to worry about. I sipped the wine, savoring its complexity. And then what? I just go back to my normal life like none of this happened. Is that what you want? The question caught me off guard. Did I want to return to my small apartment, my shifts at the ER, the mundane existence I'd been living before Derek's death? A month ago, the answer would have been an immediate yes. Now, I wasn't so sure. I don't know what I want anymore, I admitted. My old life feels like it belonged to someone else. Adrian studied me over his wine glass. You've changed these past weeks, grown stronger. Or just more paranoid. Stronger, he insisted. You've adapted to circumstances that would break most people. That takes resilience." We sat in companionable silence, and I found myself noticing details about Adrian I'd been too frightened to register before. The way he moved with controlled grace, the intelligence in his dark eyes, the rare, genuine smile that transformed his face from handsome to devastating. He was dangerous, yes, but also thoughtful, cultured, surprisingly gentle in his interactions with me. "Tell me about your family," I said impulsively. "Not the business, just the people." Adrian's expression softened. "My father was a complicated man, ruthless in business but devoted to family. He taught me to value loyalty above everything else." He paused. "My mother died when I was 12. Cancer. After that, it was just my father and my siblings, my older brother Marco, my sister Isabella, and me." "Wait, Marco, like your security chief?" "Named after my brother, who was killed in a territorial dispute 8 years ago. My father took it hard, became more isolated, more focused on maintaining control at any cost." Adrian's voice grew quieter. "Then Isabella died, and something in him broke. He started taking unnecessary risks, making enemies he didn't need to make. Within a year, he was dead too. Heart attack, officially, though I've always suspected it was more complicated than that. I'm sorry, losing your whole family like that. It taught me that power and loyalty aren't enough. You need intelligence, strategy, the ability to see threats before they materialize." He met my eyes. "It's why I'm so careful with your security. I've lost everyone I ever cared about. I won't lose you too." The intensity in his voice sent a shiver through me. This wasn't just about redemption for his sister anymore. Somewhere along the way, I'd become important to Adrian in my own right. "Adrian, I know," he interrupted softly. "This isn't the time or place. You're vulnerable, under my protection. Any feelings that develop are complicated by the power dynamic." He set down his wine glass. "But I wanted you to know. After this is over, when you're safe and have choices again, I'd like the opportunity to know you without the threat hanging over us." I should have felt uncomfortable, pressured. Instead, I felt something warm unfurl in my chest. "I'd like that too," I heard myself say. Before he could respond, his phone rang. Adrian checked the caller ID and his expression shifted instantly to business mode. "It's Walsh," he answered on speaker. "Detective. Santoro, we have a problem." Walsh's voice was tight with tension. "One of O'Sullivan's enforcers just turned informant. He's providing information about the organization's structure, operations, everything. It's exactly what we needed to finalize the case." "That's good news," Adrian said. "Why do you sound worried?" "Because he also provided information about the contract on Amelia. O'Sullivan has narrowed her location to Park Slope. They don't have the exact address yet, but they're conducting systematic searches. They know she's in a brownstone with heavy security, which significantly limits the possibilities." My blood ran cold. "How long until they find us?" "Days. Maybe less if they get lucky." Walsh paused. "The U.S. attorney is accelerating the timeline. They're preparing to move against the O'Sullivans within 48 hours. But that means the next 2 days are the most dangerous. O'Sullivan knows he's running out of time. He might do something desperate." "We need to move Amelia," Adrian said immediately. "Tonight." "Where?" "I have a property upstate. More isolated, easier to defend. I'll have her there within 3 hours. Santoro, if you move her now, O'Sullivan's people might see. They could follow you. Then we'll make sure they don't." Adrian was already standing, pacing. "Marco and Tony can create a diversion. We'll use multiple vehicles, take a route that allows us to identify any tails." "This is insane," I said, my voice shaking. How did they get so close? They've been watching every brownstone with security cameras in Park Slope for weeks, Walsh explained, systematically eliminating properties until they found possibilities that match their intelligence. Your safe house was always good, but not perfect. Nothing is. Adrian ended the call and immediately made another, speaking rapidly in Italian. Within minutes, the house exploded into coordinated activity. Tony appeared with packed bags. They'd apparently had an emergency exit strategy prepared all along. Marco brought the SUV around to the back entrance. Adrian disappeared and returned wearing all black, with a gun holstered at his hip. "Ready?" he asked me. "No. But I don't have much choice, do I?" His expression softened fractionally. "I'm sorry this is happening. I thought we had more time. It's not your fault." I grabbed my coat. "Let's just go." The next hour was a blur of movement. We left through the back entrance, Marco driving while Adrian sat beside me in the rear seat, constantly checking his phone and communicating with people I couldn't see. We switched vehicles twice, once in a parking garage in Midtown, again at a rest stop on the highway north. Each time, Tony stayed behind with the previous vehicle, creating false trails for anyone trying to follow. "Overkill?" I asked as we transferred to the third car, a nondescript sedan. "Careful," Adrian corrected. "O'Sullivan's people are professionals. We have to assume they're watching, anticipating our moves." The drive north took us out of the city into increasingly rural territory. Trees thickened along the highway. Towns grew smaller and more spread out. By the time we turned onto a private road, it was fully dark, the only light coming from our headlights and a spectacular display of stars overhead. The property revealed itself gradually, first a gate that opened automatically, then a long driveway through dense woods, finally a large house that looked like something from an architectural magazine. Modern but warm, with floor-to-ceiling windows and clean lines that suggested both luxury and security. "Welcome to my home," Adrian said as we pulled up to the entrance. My actual home, not just a safe house. Inside was even more impressive. The main level featured an open floor plan with a gourmet kitchen, comfortable living spaces, and art that I recognized as genuinely valuable. The views were spectacular. Forest on all sides, complete privacy. "You'll take the guest wing," Adrian said, leading me down a hallway. It has its own entrance, bathroom, sitting area. Completely private but connected to the main house. "This is incredible. Why didn't you bring me here in the first place?" "Because this is where I actually live. If O'Sullivan found you here, he'd know it was my property, which would compromise my security permanently." Adrian paused at the door to the guest wing. "But now that they've found the Brooklyn location anyway, there's no point in maintaining that separation. You're safer here, where I have full control of the property and security systems." The guest wing was beautiful, decorated in warm neutrals with touches of color, comfortable without being fussy. The bed looked inviting after the tense journey, but I wasn't ready to sleep, too wired from adrenaline and fear. "Stay," I said impulsively as Adrian moved to leave. "Just for a bit. I don't want to be alone right now." He nodded, settling into one of the armchairs by the window. "Of course." We sat in silence for a while, the tension of the evening gradually draining away. Adrian's presence was calming, solid, a reminder that I wasn't facing this threat alone. "What happens if they find us here too?" I asked finally. "They won't. This property is registered under a corporation that's hidden behind several layers of legal entities. There's no public connection to me. And we have security systems that would make Fort Knox jealous. Perimeter sensors, cameras, even a panic room in the basement." Adrian leaned forward. "Amelia, I know this is terrifying, but you're safe here, safer than anywhere else you could be. Until the federal arrests happen. Which will be soon, "48 hours, Walsh said. "We just need to survive 2 more days and this will all be over." "And then?" "And then you get your life back. Return to work, to your apartment, to normalcy." He paused. "Or you could consider other options. Such as staying part of my life. Working with me, perhaps. I could use someone with your medical skills and attention to detail in my legitimate businesses. Or just seeing where things go between us." His eyes met mine. "I know the timing is terrible. I know you're vulnerable and this is complicated. But I also know that what I feel for you isn't just protectiveness or guilt. It's more than that." My heart rate quickened. "Adrian, I don't even know what I feel right now. Everything is so confusing." "I know. I'm not asking for answers tonight. I'm just asking you to consider the possibility that when this is over, we might have something worth exploring." He stood. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll hear more from Walsh about the federal operation. It'll all be over soon." After he left, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Adrian Santoro. Dangerous, complicated, connected to a world I'd never wanted any part of. But also kind, protective, and undeniably attractive. The way he looked at me made me feel seen, valued, important. Was I developing feelings for him? Or was this just some twisted version of Stockholm Syndrome, a trauma response to the circumstances that had thrown us together? I honestly didn't know. But I had 48 hours to figure it out before my world changed again. Morning came with pale winter sunlight streaming through the guest wing windows. I woke to the smell of coffee and bacon, the domestic normalcy jarring after yesterday's frantic relocation. My phone showed multiple texts from Jennifer and one from Detective Walsh. Walsh. Federal operation moving forward today. Stay where you are. We'll update when safe. Jennifer. Where are you? Santoro. Better not have done anything to you or I'm calling the cavalry. I texted Jennifer back first. I'm fine. We moved to a more secure location. Everything's okay. Then I showered and dressed in the clothes that had been unpacked into the guest wing closet. Someone, probably Adrian, had thought to bring everything from the Brooklyn safe house. When I emerged, I found Adrian in the kitchen, cooking breakfast with surprising competence. "Good morning," he said, looking up from the skillet. "I hope you like eggs. I'm not much of a cook, but breakfast I can manage." "It smells amazing." I poured myself coffee and sat at the island, watching him work. Domestic Adrian was different from the controlled, dangerous man I'd first met. Softer, more relaxed, genuinely at ease in his own space. "Walsh texted," I said. "The operation is moving forward today." "I know. She contacted me too. Federal agents are positioning themselves now for simultaneous arrests across the city. Liam O'Sullivan, his top enforcers, his business associates, everyone goes down at once." Adrian plated the eggs and brought them to the island. By tonight, the O'Sullivan organization will be effectively dismantled. And then I'm safe. "And then you're safe," he confirmed. "This nightmare ends." We ate in comfortable silence, but I could feel the tension underlying everything. Today would determine not just my safety, but the future of Adrian's entire strategy against his enemies. If the federal operation succeeded, he'd eliminated a major rival without direct violence, positioning himself favorably in the city's complex power structure. If it failed, "What's our backup plan if things go wrong?" I asked. "If the arrests fail, we have contingencies. Other properties, other countries if necessary. I can get you out of the United States within hours if needed." Adrian set down his fork. "But it won't come to that. The federal case is solid. The O'Sullivans are going down." His phone rang. He checked it, his expression hardening. "I need to take this." He stepped outside onto the deck, speaking in Italian. Through the windows, I watched his body language grow increasingly tense. Whatever he was hearing wasn't good news. When he came back inside, his face was grave. There's been a development. One of O'Sullivan's enforcers, Patrick Donnelly, wasn't at his expected location when federal agents moved in. He's missing. Missing how? Warned, maybe. Or just lucky timing. Either way, he's in the wind. And he's dangerous. He's also the one who was most actively hunting you. Adrian pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. A hard-faced man in his 40s with cold eyes. If anyone's going to make a last attempt on your life, it's Donnelly. Terror spiked through me. How could he possibly find us here? He can't. Not directly. But Donnelly is persistent and resourceful. We need to be extra cautious until he's located and arrested. Adrian checked his watch. Marco is on his way here. Tony's coordinating with federal agents to track Donnelly's movements. We'll have backup within the hour. Maybe I should just go into police custody until he's caught. No. Adrian's voice was firm. You're safest here, where I control every variable. Police custody means paperwork, records, people who might be compromised. We don't know how Donnelly was warned about the raids. There could be a leak in law enforcement. The thought of a compromised cop was almost worse than the original threat. So we just wait? We wait, we stay alert, and we trust the systems I have in place. He moved to a control panel I hadn't noticed before, typing rapidly. I'm activating full lockdown protocols. Every door and window is now secured. Motion sensors are active on all approaches. No one gets within 100 yards of this house without us knowing. His efficiency was both reassuring and terrifying. This was Adrian in his element, calculating threats, positioning defenses, preparing for violence with the calm competence of someone who'd done it many times before. My phone rang. Detective Walsh. Amelia, how secure is your location? No preamble, just urgency. Very. Adrian says it's locked down tight. Good. Because we have intelligence that Donnelly is heading north from the city. We don't know his destination, but the timing is suspicious. He left immediately after the raid started, which suggests he had advance warning and a plan. Could he know where I am? We don't think so. But he might be trying to flush you out, create a situation where you have to move and become vulnerable. Walsh paused. Stay exactly where you are. Don't go outside for any reason. We have units trying to intercept Donnelly on the highway, but he's driving erratically, like he's trying to lose potential tails. After she hung up, I relayed the conversation to Adrian. His expression grew even more serious. If Donnelly is heading north, and he doesn't know your exact location, he might be planning something else. An attack on Jennifer, perhaps, to draw you out. Or your parents. The possibility hadn't occurred to me. Should we warn them? Already done. I have people with Jennifer now, and local police in Ohio have been alerted to watch your parents' house. Adrian checked multiple security feeds on his tablet. But I'm also preparing for the possibility that he does know where you are, that there's intelligence we've missed. How could he possibly? The perimeter alarm sounded. Adrian's head snapped up, his entire body going on alert. He pulled up a security feed showing the long driveway leading to the house. A single vehicle was approaching, a nondescript sedan, moving slowly but deliberately toward the gate. That's not Marco, Adrian said quietly. He's driving a different vehicle, and he's still 20 minutes out. Could it be federal agents? Walsh would have called first. He pulled out his phone, already dialing. Tony, I need satellite coverage of the access road to the northern property. Now. While he coordinated with his team, I watched the security feed with mounting dread. The sedan stopped at the gate, which remained locked. A man got out, middle-aged, hard-faced, matching the photo Adrian had shown me earlier. Patrick Donnelly. How did he find us? I whispered. Adrian's expression was ice-cold fury. I don't know, but he's not getting inside. He made another call, this time to 911, reporting an intruder on his property. Then he moved to a hidden panel in the wall, revealing an arsenal of weapons that made my blood run cold. Adrian, stay in the guest wing. Lock the door. If anything happens to me, the panic room is accessible through the closet. There's a hidden door behind the back panel. Get inside and don't come out until law enforcement arrives. He selected a handgun, checking it with practiced efficiency. You can't go out there alone. I'm not alone. Security systems are active. Tony is routing support. Marco is en route. But Donnelly chose to come here, which means he's desperate. Desperate men make fatal mistakes. Before I could respond, Donnelly pulled out a sledgehammer from his vehicle and began attacking the gate. The metal held. Adrian's security was professional grade, but the violence of the assault was terrifying. He's trying to draw me out, Adrian said, watching the feeds. Show he's a threat. Make me come to him on his terms. He pulled out his phone and activated a speaker system. Donnelly, you're trespassing on private property. Leave now or face consequences. Donnelly looked up at the security camera, smiled, and kept hammering at the gate. Stubborn, Adrian muttered. Fine. If he wants my attention, he'll get it. Don't go out there, please. Adrian looked at me, and for a moment his cold mask slipped. I'm not letting him terrorize you. Not in my home. He checked his gun again. Trust me, Amelia. I've handled men like Donnelly before. He moved toward the front entrance, and I followed despite my fear. Through the windows, I could see Donnelly had abandoned the sledgehammer and was now pulling something else from his vehicle, a crowbar, preparing to attack the gate from a different angle. Adrian opened the door but remained inside, using the frame as cover. Last warning, Donnelly. Federal agents are en route. You're only buying yourself more prison time. I'm already looking at life, Donnelly called back. What's a few more charges? But first I finish what I started. Where's the girl? Not here, and you're not getting inside to find out. Donnelly laughed, a harsh sound that carried across the distance. You think your fancy security keeps me out? I've breached better than this. He returned to his vehicle and emerged with a gun of his own. The situation escalated instantly. Adrian slammed the door, activating additional security protocols. Get to the guest wing, now. I ran, hearing behind me the sound of gunshots, Donnelly firing at the security cameras, trying to blind Adrian's surveillance. My hands shook as I locked the guest wing door, then moved to the closet as Adrian had instructed. The hidden panel took me a moment to find, but when I pressed the right spot, it swung open to reveal a reinforced door with a keypad. I punched in the code Adrian had made me memorize, Isabella's birthday, and the door unlocked with a heavy click. The panic room was small, but well-equipped. Water, non-perishable food, first aid supplies, communications equipment, and a monitor showing the same security feeds Adrian had been watching. I could see Donnelly methodically shooting out cameras, working his way toward the house, and I could see Adrian moving through the main level, positioning himself defensively. This was madness. A shootout at a private residence, all because Derek had made terrible choices, and I'd been unfortunate enough to love him. The security monitor showed new vehicles approaching, 2 SUVs moving fast up the driveway. Marco and backup, finally. But before they could arrive, Donnelly did something that made my blood freeze. He pulled out what looked like a Molotov cocktail, a bottle filled with liquid and a cloth wick, and threw it at the house. It shattered against the front entrance, flames spreading across the expensive wood. No! I heard Adrian's voice through the panic room's speakers, connected to the house's security system. More gunshots. The monitors showed Adrian returning fire through a window, forcing Donnelly to take cover behind his vehicle. But the flames were spreading, smoke beginning to pour from the front entrance. Marco's SUVs screeched to a halt. 4 men poured out, weapons drawn. Donnelly, seeing he was outgunned, made a desperate play. He fired several shots at the approaching security team, then turned and ran into the woods surrounding the property. "Amelia." Adrian's voice through the speaker, urgent. "The fire is contained. Sprinkler system activated. You can come out." I emerged from the panic room on shaky legs to find the main house filled with smoke, but the flames already extinguished by automatic systems. Adrian was at the front entrance, coordinating with Marco while paramedics and firefighters arrived. Someone must have called 911. "Are you hurt?" I asked, running to him. "No. Are you?" "No, but Adrian, he threw a firebomb at your house and failed to burn it down thanks to proper preparation." Adrian pulled me close, his arms solid and reassuring. "Donnelly is running on foot through the woods. He won't get far. Marco's men are pursuing, and state police are setting up a perimeter. It's over." Within the hour, it was. State police dogs tracked Donnelly to a small clearing half a mile from the house, where he surrendered rather than face the K-9 units. He was arrested, handcuffed, and led away while Detective Walsh arrived to take my statement. "Hell of a morning," Walsh said, surveying the damaged entrance. "But Donnelly's arrest completes the federal operation. Every major player in the O'Sullivan organization is now in custody. The threat to you is officially over." I should have felt relief, euphoria even. Instead, I just felt exhausted and strangely hollow. "So, that's it? I can go home?" "That's it. You're free, Amelia. Finally safe." Adrian stood apart, speaking with Marco, deliberately giving me space to process with Walsh. But I felt his presence, his attention on me even as he conducted his own business. "What happens now?" I asked Walsh. "Now you return to your life. The hospital will reinstate you from administrative leave. Your apartment is still yours, though I'd recommend getting the locks changed and maybe a security system." Walsh paused. "And you'll need to testify at the trials, but that's months away. For now, you're free to resume your normal life." Normal life. The phrase felt foreign, almost meaningless. What was normal after everything I'd experienced? After Walsh left, Adrian approached me where I stood on the smoke-damaged deck, looking out at the forest where Donnelly had been captured. "She's right, you know," he said softly. "You're free. The O'Sullivans are finished. Donnelly is in custody. You can go back to being Amelia Carter, trauma nurse, regular person." "Is that what you want? For me to just leave?" "I want whatever makes you happy and safe." He turned to face me directly. "But if you're asking what I'd prefer, then no. I don't want you to leave. I want you to stay, to see if what we've started here could become something real. We met under impossible circumstances. You were protecting me. I was terrified and dependent on you. How can we know if what we feel is real or just trauma bonding? We can't. Not until you have the freedom to choose without pressure." Adrian reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear with unexpected tenderness. "So here's what I propose. Go back to your life. Return to work, to your apartment, to your friends. Take time to process everything that's happened. And if, after all that, you still want to explore what's between us, call me. And if I don't, then I'll respect your choice and be grateful I was able to keep you safe." His smile was sad. "But I hope you will call, because I think we could be extraordinary together, Amelia Carter." He was right. I needed distance, perspective, time to separate the trauma from genuine emotion. But standing there, looking into his dark eyes, I already knew what my answer would be. "Give me a month," I said. 1 month of normal life to clear my head and figure out what I really want. Take 2 if you need it. Take however long necessary." Adrian pressed his business card into my hand, the same card he'd given me that first night. "But know that I'll be waiting, however long it takes." And 2 months later, I stood outside Adrian's Tribeca building, my heart pounding with nervousness and anticipation. The doorman recognized me and waved me through with a knowing smile. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt both eternal and far too short. I'd spent the past 2 months exactly as planned, returning to work at St. Catherine's, reconnecting with friends, processing the trauma through therapy that Adrian had quietly arranged and paid for. Detective Walsh had checked in regularly, updating me on the federal cases against the O'Sullivan organization. Every major figure had been indicted, with trials scheduled to begin in 6 months. But mostly, I'd spent those 2 months thinking about Adrian, missing his presence, his calm competence, the way he made me feel safe and seen and valued. Without the immediate threat hanging over us, I'd had space to examine my feelings honestly, and I'd realized that what I felt for him was real. The elevator opened directly into his penthouse. Adrian stood by the windows, the same windows where we'd first really talked 2 months ago. He turned as I entered, and the smile that lit his face was worth every moment of uncertainty I'd endured. "Amelia, I'm calling in that exploration," I said, crossing to him. "If the offer's still open." "It's open. It'll always be open for you." He reached for my hand, his touch sending familiar warmth through me. "How have you been?" "Good. Busy. Back at work. Back in my apartment. Everything's normal again." I squeezed his hand. "But normal isn't enough anymore. I keep thinking about what you said, that we could be extraordinary together. I'd like to find out if you're right." "Are you sure? This isn't pressure or obligation or gratitude for keeping you safe?" "I'm sure. I've had 2 months to think about it, to miss you, to imagine what my life could look like with you in it." I smiled. "And I want that life, Adrian, with all its complications and dangers and extraordinary possibilities." He pulled me closer, his eyes searching mine. "I'll do everything in my power to make you happy, Amelia, to build a life with you that's as legitimate and safe as possible. I know, and I'll try not to panic every time your phone rings with business you can't discuss. Fair trade." He laughed, and then he kissed me, gently at first, then deeper, sealing the promise between us. When we finally broke apart, I rested my forehead against his. "So what happens now?" "Now we take it slow. Date like normal people. Build something real that isn't based on protection or danger." He paused. "And eventually, if we're both still feeling this way, we figure out how to make it permanent." "Permanent?" "I'm 35, Amelia. I've spent my entire adult life focused on business and survival. But you make me want more than that. A real relationship. Maybe eventually a family." He brushed his thumb across my cheek. "Is that something you might want too?" I thought about everything I'd lost. Derek, my sense of safety, my naive belief that the world was fundamentally fair. But I also thought about what I'd gained. Strength, resilience, and this complicated, dangerous, extraordinary man who made me feel more alive than I ever had before. "Yes," I said simply. "That's exactly what I want." Outside the windows, Manhattan glittered with infinite possibilities. Behind us lay trauma and danger and choices that had forever changed who we were. But ahead stretched a future we would build together. Complex, challenging, and real. Derek's betrayal had nearly destroyed me. The O'Sullivans had tried to kill me. But in surviving both, I'd found something I never expected. A love worth fighting for, and a man who'd proven he would fight for me just as fiercely. Adrian Santoro wasn't perfect. Neither was I. But together,